Hello, my name is Grayson Loupas, and I am a licensed realtor in the state of Washington. I just moved out to Arizona. I'm going to college at Grand Canyon University. I'm currently a junior studying entrepreneurial studies. I'm planning on going to the world of real estate investing. That's my career path. I just started working here at Neighborhood.Ventures with Jamison. He's kind of been my mentor lately.
Yeah, great place to be in Phoenix, Arizona if you want to go into real estate investing. So we're glad to have you. GCU is a great school, and thanks for sitting down with me today.
Yeah, I'm excited. All right, so let's just hop right into it. So you and I, we talk all the time about having an entrepreneurial spirit. So where do you get your entrepreneurial spirit from?
That's a good question. I just know that ever since I was young, I like to do stuff that was going to make money, because it's clear to see in the world that we live in, even when you're young, that if you have financial resources, you have a lot of opportunities, and if you don't, then it limits what you can do with your life. And I grew up the youngest of 8 kids. It was a little bit of survival of the fittest when it came to growing up in our house, because my dad was an entrepreneur and a salesman. So it was kind of feast or famine in our house. Times were good, then things were great, but there were other times that were pretty tough. And I remember if someone came home with a quart of ice cream or box of Oreos, it was like, you better get yours before they're gone. So I grew up the youngest of 8 kids, so I was always got that last Oreo if I was lucky, and then realized I needed to figure out how to take care of myself. My best business, so I did a bunch of businesses when I was younger. My best business was either dog walking, $1 a day. It's not a bad gig if you can walk a couple of dogs. I also pulled Christmas trees out of people's houses and dragged them down to the cul-de-sac where they'd get picked up by the garbage man. That was pretty good. That was seasonal, but I did that when I was younger. And I sold pops at parades. Little markup on those. My junior and senior year, I'd started a telemarketing company of junior, senior year of high school, and I had about half a dozen of my friends working for me. We were calling, generating leads for mortgage brokers and insurance brokers, and I loved it. I loved creating an idea, a way to add value to somebody, hiring folks, and figuring out how to build a business. And a lot of things that I learned in those times, they're valid even today. How do you sell a pop to somebody, and you figure out how to do that. Soda, depending on where in the country you are, it was a pop to us in Idaho. So depending on how you those skills translate to business, and being able to sell in particular was really important. Then I ended up selling door to door through college security alarms. Hated that, but it paid for my school, and I learned a ton. Knocking on someone's door and trying to help them see the value of having a security alarm in their house. So just kind of always been there, and I enjoy it. I think it's super fun.
Cool. Yeah, I've pretty much tried everything you could possibly think of that a teenager could do in terms of trying to get started with investing with little to no money. So I tried stocks. I tried starting my own e-commerce business. I taught piano lessons for a long time, basketball training, all sorts of different stuff. And then I kind of focused on the mindset of like, okay, none of this stuff is, you're not trying to get rich quick anymore. You got to focus on what's long term. What are you going to do in the long term? So I looked at commercial real estate investing as the final career path for me. So
yeah, and that's the way to do it, is trying stuff, seeing what you like, what you don't like. If you listen to people and kind of gurus, they're gonna just tell you a lot of times the what's good about it, but until you try it, you don't really know. What kind of e-commerce stuff did you do?
So I watched all these YouTube videos on, everybody's shows all these huge numbers, like 300 grand in revenue and sales in 1 month, and I was like, oh, this looks so easy. So I made a Shopify account, which is like, I think probably half the teenagers who are entrepreneurs have made Shopify accounts. And it was right at the beginning of the pandemic. And so I was like, what is something like during the pandemic that you can sell that people are going to need more than they would if it wasn't? So I was like, okay, people are going to be on their computers more than anything during this pandemic. So I was like, what do you need if you're on a computer? You want to protect your eyes. So I went online and I found a distributor for these blue light glasses.
Makes sense to me. Yeah.
Yeah. So it sounds like a decent business plan.
It's either those or a mask or a shield or
everybody was selling masks though, so I was like, what's something else I can sell? So I started looking at blue light glasses, and I was going to market them to parents with kids like 4th grade and under, because parents would be the ones buying them usually. Teenagers were probably less likely to buy them. So I created the whole website. I think I spent like $500 on everything. I started running Instagram ads, Facebook ads. They were really, really crappy ads, like really ugly. But I tried it. I think I made 4 sales, $20 a pop, so it was like $80. So I was still in the red, and $420, but it was a good learning experience. I learned how to run Facebook ads. I learned how to run Instagram ads, and I just kind of learned how to make a website, what a business looks like.
And you delivered those 4 pair of glasses?
I did. They were not the prettiest pair of glasses, but I delivered them.
Well, I think I love it because, taking something from start to finish, that's what it's all about. Mm-hmm. And then pivoting when you learn, and if you were able to learn to see if there was a market there, if you could start acquiring customers at a lower cost with those Instagram ads, then it could have been a business that took off, but Instagram ads and Facebook ads are actually really expensive, and it's hard to get a business off the ground on those, is what a lot of people have found.
Yeah, you have to spend a lot of money to reach a big audience, especially with Facebook ads. So did you end up going to college after doing all the businesses you started? Did you end up going to college?
I did. In my early 20s, I did a startup. It was a real estate for sell by owner service. So if you're selling your home, instead of using a real estate broker and paying a commission, we would charge a flat fee, like around $1,000, to list it for you. And then we would educate you on how to do the paperwork and do everything essentially by owner. My dad's a real estate broker, so that was kind of the background there. And I had moved from Idaho to Phoenix. That was the first time I ever lived in Arizona, and found a couple of business partners, and we launched it. We did it for about 4 years, and then we also would do the mortgage for the folks. So when the people would find somebody to buy their house, we would do the mortgage service. And since it was for sell by owner, we kind of offered that. And that was a decent business, not great. It was harder than I expected to get people to spend $1,000 rather than to pay 6%. I kind of thought it'd be a gimme. And that's the thing. One of my favorite quotes is, every idea is a bad idea until it's proven. Once you actually do it, okay, now that's a good idea. But until you see some results, it's a bad idea. And I'm not saying it's a bad idea in a negative way. I'm just saying there's so many ideas out there. Do it, see it, and if it works, now you got a good idea. And that's what that was. It was an okay business. I probably could have kept doing it. Then the financial crisis happened, 2008, 2009. Our business slowed way down, and I hadn't gone to college. And at that point, I was like, maybe I should go to college and get some academic learning. And so I started and graduated in 2012. I moved up to Salt Lake City and finished school in Salt Lake City, graduated 2012 in finance.
Okay. Did you end up using that degree, your finance degree?
Yeah, in fact, for me, getting a degree was a key part of my career, because I ended up doing an internship at an investment bank in New York my junior to senior summer. And I got that job, that internship. I was in Salt Lake, decided I wanted to get to Wall Street, and I started flying out to the East Coast every Thursday night to New York City on a JetBlue red-eye flight out of Salt Lake direct to New York. I'd arrive about 6 a.m., and I tried to have as many appointments as I could. Wow. With alumni, with people professors had referred to me, with people I reached out to on LinkedIn. And I think I did that 6 weeks, 6 times. Ended up meeting alumnus from University of Utah, and we met a few times, and I never asked for a job. It was just an informational interview. And what this strategy is, someone taught it to me, is you just say, hey, do you have 15 or 20 minutes? You can tell me a bit about what you do. So the three questions are, what do you do every day? Number two is, if you were my age and you could go back and do it different, what would you do different? And number three is, I can't even remember what number three is. I think it's actually two. And it's 10 or 15 minutes. And by having that little discussion with them, they get to know you. And if there's any opportunities at that firm, they're likely to give it to you. So that's what I did. And I probably did, 30 of those in New York City. Ended up connecting with a guy, and he was at Barclays, which is the bank that bought Lehman Brothers when they failed. It's a European bank from the UK. He was there. He was a VP, so he referred me to get an internship. I think there was 2,000 people that applied to internships, and they hired 100. And they flew me out, interviewed me, and I ended up getting the internship. Had done a bunch of preparation for it and stuff in the finance club at school. And that's how I got out to New York the first time. And it was pretty clear after a couple weeks in the internship that I hated it. It was 10 weeks. I did not like the type of work. I didn't like the vibe. But I did like the department that was adjacent to us. I was working on the sales and trading floor. The department next to us was the equity research team, and they're the folks that do like deep dives into companies and really spend time, and they get in the weeds is what we call it. When you're on the sales and trading floor, you don't do a lot of research. It's very quick. So I didn't take that opportunity to work for Barclays, but by getting an internship, it kind of opened the door to me, and I got a job offer from Goldman Sachs doing equity research, which is what I had learned I wanted to do. So I ended up doing, Goldman Sachs is a better place to work generally. There's nothing wrong with Barclays, but if you can get in at Goldman Sachs, it's consistently viewed as having the kind of the best and brightest, and somehow I squeezed in there, honestly, because when I was there, I felt like everyone was super smart, super motivated. So it ended up being a great experience, a great place to work, and kind of catapulted my career. So if I hadn't got my finance degree, I would have never gone down that route.
Yeah. Did you see like a big mindset shift from starting all your own business in high school and going to college, and then just seeing all these guys working like 70, 80, 90 even hour work weeks? Did you see is there a big mindset shift? Because you probably had to work, 70 hours a week on Wall Street?
Yeah, and what was interesting is having an entrepreneurial background, they really liked it. That was why I got the internship. I just told them what I had done, the things I had started, and they're like, well, this is different. They're mostly hiring Ivy League folks kind of who had always gone the traditional path. They're smart, they're bright, but they're private school, Ivy League, let's just hire those guys. And I was just a totally different path. And as it played out, that wasn't the right place for me long term. But I brought a different perspective, and I worked there for 3.5 years at Goldman, and I did pretty well there, even though I didn't have an Ivy League background. They wanted to keep me on, and I ended up taking a job at a company that we had worked on their IPO, LifeLock, based in Tempe, Arizona. Worked on their IPO in 2012, right after I had graduated, joined the team, and got to know the CEO and the CFO quite well. They'd come out to our conferences, and we would talk to them every quarter at their earnings results. So I got to know them, got a feel for them, and LifeLock became a company that I followed a lot on from a research analyst perspective. I would write reports on them. And when a hedge fund or somebody called and wanted to know if they should invest in LifeLock, usually I was the one that talked to them, because I kind of became an expert in that company. And so when I knew they were looking to hire somebody internally, I reached out to them and pretty quickly got a job offer and moved out from New York to Tempe and worked at LifeLock for 1.5 years. We ended up getting bought out after 1.5 years, and that's when I launched Neighborhood Ventures with co-founder John Kabrowski.
Cool. So I'm in college. Some of the people that will hopefully be listening to this are in college or going to be in college. So what if you could go back, like let's say I don't have a plan of going to Wall Street. I plan on doing a similar.
That's smart. Yeah. Yeah, and I think either path is okay, because if you can get to Wall Street and you work there for a period of time, it opens up a lot of opportunities that you can always fall back on. And if you go the entrepreneurial route, there's a lot of upside there too. You have more freedom, you have more flexibility. You're definitely going to be utilizing all of your skills. When you work at a big company like Goldman Sachs, you're kind of pigeonholed and you're producing something, but you don't utilize all your skills. Like I never really utilized my sales skills when I was at Goldman. I was just researching. And when you start a company, you have to be able to do a lot of things. You have to be able to sell for sure. You have to be able to analyze financial statements. You have to be able to build a business plan. You have to be able to understand different markets that your business wants to go in. You have to understand marketing. You have to understand whatever your product is. It's a whole new world, you know. When you're working at a big company, you just do one thing. And so it's definitely not for everybody. But I think we all kind of know inside whether we want to try to be an entrepreneur and create something, or whether we want to have more of a job at a company, or if we can go work at a startup company. That's also a great opportunity, because if you go work at a startup, you'll be doing some amazing things all across the board. You wear multiple hats, you learn a lot. The energy and the excitement is very different there than at an established company. So I think that's also a great path, is if you can find a company that's growing, that's in a space that you like, you kind of hitch yourself to that wagon for a little while. So I think that's a great path. And I mean, Neighborhood Ventures, for example, we're a company we get reached out to all the time for people who want to come do an internship for us or work for us, because they see how we're growing, and they see what we're doing that's unique and different. And so finding those opportunities isn't that easy. So if you can find one that matches it, that's also a great path to get to where you want to get to.
So how does the Neighborhood Ventures company work then? I know it's a lot different than whatever you're doing on Wall Street, probably. How does Neighborhood Ventures work? What do they do?
You know, it's kind of interesting, because basically what we do is a mini IPO for each of our real estate projects. So when I was at Goldman, one company that went public was so when I was at Goldman, Snapchat was in the process of going public, and they had raised a lot of money from venture capital. The founders of the company were ready to take the company public. And what happens there is, when you go public, all your investors finally have liquidity. They may not sell all of their ownership, but they can now, because they're traded on a public exchange. And when we take one of our projects out to our investors, we're opening it up to the public to invest in it. And so Snapchat, I think theirs was $1 billion IPO. I can't even remember, but it was huge, multiple billions. Ours are a few million, but it's actually a security. It's we have a lot of laws that we follow. We follow the same template as far as laws, and the crowdfunding laws are what we work under, and that's what allows us to raise money from everyday folks. Meaning, our minimum investment is $1,000. And one thing a lot of people don't know with investing is, if you make more money, you can invest in more stuff. The government allows you to invest in more potentially risky investments. But if you don't make as much money, there's limitations. Either you can't invest at all, or there's limitations to what you can invest in. And so our offerings are open to everybody, which is what's really cool. And it's like an IPO. And then what we do with our projects is, we're buying a building that is underperforming. The asset's already existing. The building's already existing. Generally, it's already generating some cash flow, but we see an opportunity there to increase that cash flow, either because it needs to be renovated, it needs new management, it needs amenities to be added, washer and dryers, and usually it's multiple things that if we can go in and do those, add those features and reposition the asset, it will generate much more cash flow, which ultimately is how you determine how much the building is worth. So we're taking an asset that's performing at a subpar level and taking it at a really high level. And in that period of time, it takes us a few years to do that. Our investors get a really good return in that period with us. We're doing all the work. And then we have liquidity when we sell the building in 2 to 3 years.
So what made you decide to go with this business model versus kind of the old-fashioned business model where you just get, the minimum investment could be $100,000 from 5 different people, whereas you're getting $1,000 from 500 people? Why'd you decide to go that way instead of the traditional, good old boy, how you described it?
Yeah, things have changed. Raising money online is something that I think that's where people are going to be doing investments. And I always call it the way that investing has been done in the past is at the country club. You get to know somebody, they might be doing a real estate project, tend to be wealthier folks there, and you kind of invest with your friends or you invest with people your friends know. That's how a lot of real estate deals, like the deals we do, have been done traditionally. And we weren't interested in doing that business. I think over the next 20 or 30 years, real estate investing will be done online the way that we do it. We put really good media on our website so you can see what the project's going to look like, a really nice rendering. You can kind of see it before and after. And it's really easy to see when you online what a project can do from start to finish. And so as we started to put our business together, it was really clear that's how we wanted to set up the business, not just for today, but for where things are going over the next couple of decades. And we initially were raising money from folks in Arizona, and now we raise money from folks nationally. And our projects have gotten bigger and bigger. Our current one's a 120-unit hotel to apartment conversion. And so we're really in the early stages, but it's a lot of fun to get folks who have never been involved in a real estate project like this for as little as $1,000 to invest with us. That's just a lot of fun for me and John, my co-founder. We also have investors who have millions of dollars with us. And so it's the whole gamut, and everyone gets treated the same. And I think that's the way it should be.
Yeah. So that's a way that the teenagers and people in college, that's the way that they can get started in investing in real estate too then, right? Because you can, a lot of people in college and high school, they only have just a few $1,000s to their name. But being able to invest just $1,000, that's big, because before, you had to have $100,000 and a ton of connections to be able to invest in real estate. But now you can invest in real estate with this new crowdfunding laws with just $1,000.
And maybe ultimately you want to buy your own apartment buildings. You want to own your own portfolio. I think that's great. But you have to start somewhere, and it costs a lot of money. You have to have a lot of assets in order to be able to buy your own building. So some folks start out with us and with as little as $1,000, and then they just continue to grow their portfolio. And then at some point they may want to just go their own building, and we love that. We have ASU students who invested with us, GCU students. We have school teachers. We have postal carriers. We have firemen. A lot of people who have never been able to invest in local good real estate like our projects, and because it's $1,000 minimum, they can invest, and then they continue to invest with us over time.